I thank the organizers for inviting me to describe how I use ChatGPT. Hopefully it's going to give a slightly different perspective or additional perspective to what Dr. Manella was talking about earlier. I do use it in my upper level developmental biology class, which now has take-home exams. So just a quick description of what our campus looks like and what the biology program looks like. We're a second biggest Penn State campus in Harrisburg. We have about 4,000 students, as you can sort of see here. Hopefully I can get my laser pointer to work. Mostly undergraduates, as you can see from the numbers here. And while we are not a minority serving institution officially, we have a lot of international students and quite a few Black, African, Hispanic, and Latino students and whatnot. The biology program has relatively stable enrollment. This is the number of students that are enrolled in the major, so that probably doesn't include the first year, second year students in these academic years. And you see the demographics in the bottom right. For the specific course that I'm going to talk about, it's an upper level course that is a requirement for the genetics and developmental biology option that we are offering, but can also be used as a course fulfillment as an upper level elective for the general biology option. We meet 3 times a week for 50 minutes. There is no associated laboratory with the course. Other institutions do have a lab associated with that. It's delivered in person, capped at 30 students. Lately, I have the exams and the quizzes taken at home. And the way that that works, the quizzes, sort of smaller stakes quizzes, are delivered via Top Hat. And I use Canvas and Honor normally for my exams. However, well, let's go through this for a minute here. You see that the exams are fairly high stakes, so they're 15% each. Lately, I have been doing a project instead of a final exam, and then there are other homework assignments and in-class quizzes. And the course objectives are taken straight out of the syllabus. There are course objectives that are content-based, such as describe the universal stages of development and whatnot. But there are also skills-based objectives, including things like design experiments using methods discussed in the class. So when I first joined my institution in 2018, I have to say at this point, I'm not a developmental biologist by trade. My research has never been associated with developmental biology, and I was sort of thrown into the sea and asked to swim. And so I had some exams. The exams back then were in person, and there were a mixture of questions that checked the understanding and remembering, such as the multiple choice question that you see here in the left, and then a little bit more critical thinking questions, such as the one that you see in the right. But then COVID hit, and I was in a faculty group meeting on Zoom from the Society of Developmental Biology, and we were discussing about how can we deliver exams that are basically ungoogleable. And we came up with different ideas, and the way that I implemented these ideas was to make an ungoogleable exam that is based more towards the skills-based course objectives. So I have an example of an exam question here that I'm actually still using, right? So there is this long basically scenario that's fully fictional given in the exam, and then basically along with the scenario goes the question that says, you know, how would you approach testing the hypothesis or similar events, right? So this is from the stem cell work. Now these exams are take home. I give them about a week to 10 days to complete the exams, and they're open book. They can Google things, they can ask other professors, although other professors have been kind of reluctant to give them feedback. They can talk with themselves, but it's a clear understanding that their answers should be their own. And that was what was happening post-COVID, and I kind of kept it even after all students on campus returned to in-person, because it gives me more time for my lectures and other active learning activities in the class. And then, of course, we got ChatGPT. And so these rise of large language models sort of came about, and I was wondering, how can I check that students will not go home, post the exam, ChatGPT, put the answers in the document and return them? And frankly, I cannot. So it's just that. And I was sad for a minute there. And then I wasn't, because I came up with a syllabus language that I have included as a text here, so that when the slides are available, people can just copy and paste and change as they want, or they can send me an email and I can share that if they wanted to. So basically, what I came up with, and that's at the time when Penn State did not have a formal policy for the use of LLMs, was that I adopted 3 principles in mind: that an artificial intelligence cannot pass the course, AI contributions must be attributed and true, and that the use of AI resources must be open and documented. So basically, I asked my students that they need to pass the course, and their submission should be better than any AI, right? So their task would be to surpass AI generated responses to the assignments. So basically, I asked them to submit more work if they decided to use ChatGPT. They could opt out of using ChatGPT for these take-home exams, but basically I asked them to confirm the validity of AI-generated text and add references to published works, add an appendix that lists a number of lists of prompts that they gave to the AI and the generated responses, add footnotes to the text where AI-generated text is used that links directly to the appropriate appendix section, and then add a section within the introduction of the assignment in which a qualitative and quantitative description of AI usage is included, the associated risks and the measures taken to counteract such risks. And at the end of the assignment, add a section where it details the value added to the assignment by the student themselves compared to the AI output, including specific examples. So basically, they had to put in all this extra work and add, an extra paragraph in the introduction and in the end, and footnotes and appendices and whatnot. This is so because Penn State has this courseware policy, I cannot force the students to use ChatGPT or any specific software unless it's approved. It's vetted for privacy and accessibility issues. And at the time that I sort of started this, it didn't. So I actually give them the answers that ChatGPT provides to the questions that I have. So this is my prompt. Assume that you're a senior undergraduate developmental biology student at State University in the USA. Your professor gives you the following exam. Can you provide answers to questions? And ChatGPT gives a fairly entry-level responses. And then I have a few student answers to the right, where you see that they actually, and I will just scroll through them, and for those of you who may be familiar with parts of cell or developmental biology, you will see a few responses, right? And I don't have the full question here because of space, but actually students really did not end up using it, or if they ended up using it, they actually used it as a basis for their own answers. I have here the distribution of the grades for the class. The blue background is from before the old style exams, the in-person exams, where students would actually take the exams in person. There was a lot of these sort of entry-level multiple choice questions and whatnot. And then the take-home exams are in the bottom in the orange background. fall 2022, I did not have the ChatGPT or the LLM policy in place in the syllabus, and fall 2023 I did, and I don't think that there is significant differences in the grades there. But overall, the take-home exams actually, I feel like they helped the students get better at understanding the contents, and it shows here as being reflected on the grades, but it's also an assessment that I personally sort of anecdotally am getting. Feel free to reach out. This is my email address if you have questions, and I'll be happy to answer questions right now.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Great talk. So let's see. There is a question in the chat. I'll read it for you. And
yes, thank you.
So Gen AI will generate a unique and novel response each time a prompt is given. I'm curious if you ever compared, graded multiple Gen AI answers to student answers. Which does better?
I never directly compared. I could do it with the older student submissions, the pre-ChatGPT, so from the older exams. I will say that students were always better. I don't know if it has to do with the level of expectation in an upper level class and the level of detail that I'm expecting. We spend a lot of time in the classroom discussing techniques, discussing experiments, discussing experimental design. So I hammered that nail pretty hard during the semester. And developmental biology is one of those courses that they still learn content. And that is sort of tested, in smaller stakes quizzes. So I just make sure that they follow along and they understand the new content that they are getting. But most of, I want to say that for these sort of more writing oriented responses to the take-home exams, the students actually do a better job. Again, because I give them a nice scaffold for that in the class.
And there's another question. So how do you know if the student uses Gen AI but doesn't admit to it?
Again, there comes the sort of little gift that I put there. I cannot assess that, but I feel like I would suspect it because I have seen, and I actually give to the students the answers that ChatGPT or other LLMs provide. Now, Penn State has a Microsoft, account. We have access to Copilot, and of course there is Google Gemini and all kinds of other different LLMs. So I can still sort of play around with those. I frankly, in the 2 years that I have done this, the 2 semesters that I've done this, I have that one suspicion for one individual student that they may have used it without admitting to it, but they did such a great job at improving whatever it was that the LLM gave them that I really didn't care. So the ultimate goal for me is for the students to learn experimental design and to learn how to interpret results and to learn these kinds of things. And so if that was what they did, again, it goes to what Dr. Manella was saying earlier about the balance between plagiarism and actual usefulness of the tool. And I feel like that's where it sort of leaned into. I may be sort of very innocent about this maybe, but it feels like the disincentive of the students putting the extra work in actually works, and they don't want to use it. I have to say though that in the past I have raised flags for plagiarism in my campus through the formal mechanisms for that, and so I do have sort of a bad reputation among students that I'm going to take things the whole way. So that may also be a factor there.